United States Navy controls the traffic going in and out of the strait because we have real assets and real capabilities. And we're doing this blockade, performing it with less than 10% of America's naval power. The math is clear. We're using 10% of the world's most powerful Navy, and you have 0%.
In a swift and decisive operation, the United States destroyed a large weapons shipment destined for the IRGC that was moving through the Strait of Hormuz from China. Intelligence reports confirmed that several cargo ships were carrying advanced missiles, mines, and other military equipment intended to strengthen Iranian forces and threaten the strait. High Command acted immediately, launching a coordinated naval and air operation to stop the delivery before it could reach its destination. The operation started with urgent preparations on two key ships. Aboard the USS Tripoli, Navy SEAL teams gathered in the well deck and hangar bays. They packed their rucksacks with suppressed weapons, night vision goggles, breaching charges, medical kits, and climbing ropes. Each operator checked and rechecked his gear multiple times. Rifles were fitted with suppressors, magazines loaded with subsonic rounds, and communication devices tested for encrypted channels. They adjusted body armor, tested helmets, and made sure every piece of equipment was silent and reliable. Small teams reviewed satellite images and deck layouts of the target cargo ships, memorizing entry points, guard positions, and possible hiding spots for the weapons. The SEALs moved with calm focus. They knew this was a high-risk boarding operation that required perfect timing and silence. Each SEAL carried a customized loadout. Breachers carried shotguns and shaped charges for forcing locked hatches. Assaulters carried M4A1s with suppressors and 40mm underbarrel launchers for close-quarters combat. Snipers positioned themselves on the flight deck of the Tripoli, ready to provide overwatch if any of the cargo ships attempted to flee. The SEALs also packed handheld underwater breathing apparatuses, a contingency in case their boats were compromised and they had to approach the target ships from beneath the surface. They did not expect to use them, but they were ready. At the same time, on the USS Abraham Lincoln, elite Marines prepared for their role in the mission. They packed heavy combat loads, rifles, machine guns, grenades, and breaching tools. They checked their body armor, tested radios, and reviewed maps of the target vessels. On the flight deck, F-35 pilots ran through pre-flight checks on their stealth jets. Weapon stations were loaded with precision-guided munitions. Stealth coatings were inspected inch by inch, and fuel tanks were brought to full capacity. The pilots studied the latest intelligence on the cargo ships, marking the most vulnerable points for airstrikes. Their role was to destroy some of the ships from the air, while the Marines seized others. The F-35s were configured for a specific mission profile. Each jet carried two 2,000-pound JDAMs for destroying the largest cargo vessels, plus 4 small-diameter bombs for precision strikes on individual weapon containers. The pilots had rehearsed the targeting sequence 12 times on simulators. They knew which ships to hit, in what order, and at what angle. The priority was not to sink every ship. The priority was to destroy the weapons without detonating them in a way that would block the strait. That meant hitting specific holds at specific angles. A surgical strike, not a bombardment. The mission launched in perfect coordination. From the USS Tripoli, Navy SEALs boarded MH-60S Nighthawk helicopters and rigid-hull inflatable boats. The aircraft and boats moved low over the water toward the convoy of cargo ships. At the same moment, F-35s from the USS Abraham Lincoln launched from the carrier deck and headed toward the same targets. The stealth jets flew ahead to provide air cover and strike capability. The approach took 47 minutes. The SEALs in the boats kept their engines at idle speed, barely above the waterline, using the moonless night as cover. The helicopters flew at 50 feet, their rotors masked by the ambient noise of the cargo ship's own engines. The IRGC security teams on board had night vision equipment, but it was older generation, less sensitive than what the Americans carried. The first warning the guards had was the sound of the first JDAM leaving an F-35's internal bay. As the F-35s reached the cargo ships, they began their precision strikes. The explosion was contained, by design. The second impact struck the engine room, crippling the vessel but not sinking it. The ship list hard to starboard. It would not move again. The second F-35 targeted a smaller vessel carrying naval mines. The pilot used a single small-diameter bomb, punching a hole through the deck directly above the mine storage area. The bomb did not detonate the mines. Instead, it punctured the hold, flooding it with seawater and rendering the mines inert. The ship began to settle low in the water, but did not explode. That was the intent. Explosions ripped across the decks of several vessels, destroying weapon crates and crippling engines. While the airstrikes were underway, the Navy SEALs and Marines moved in for the boarding operations. Speedboats and helicopters approached the remaining cargo ships. The SEALs fast-roped onto the decks or climbed aboard using rope ladders. They immediately secured the outer perimeter, neutralizing IRGC security guards with suppressed weapons. No alarms were raised on the first ships. The Marines followed closely, boarding other vessels and clearing them room by room. The fighting on the ships was intense, but short. Iranian guards tried to resist, but the American operators were faster and better trained. On one vessel, 3 IRGC guards barricaded themselves inside the bridge and opened fire through the windows. A Marine fire team returned fire, suppressing the windows, while a second team moved to the rear of the bridge. The second team breached the rear door and threw a flashbang inside. The guards were disoriented and captured within seconds. No Americans were hit. SEALs and Marines cleared corridors, storage holds, and crew quarters with precision. They found thousands of missiles, mines, and other weapons hidden in containers. The teams worked quickly to secure the important shipments. What could not be safely removed was destroyed on site with controlled charges. With the weapon shipment stopped and the ships either destroyed or seized, the IRGC lost a major supply delivery. The first oil tankers that had been waiting offshore began to move cautiously toward the strait. The operation was monitored in real time from the command center aboard the USS Abraham Lincoln. Screens showed live feeds from drones overhead, from helmet cameras on the boarding teams, and from the F-35s circling above. The commander watched as the final ship was secured, as the last weapon container was destroyed, and as the boarding teams extracted back to their helicopters and boats. The coordination between the air and sea forces had been flawless. The mission was a major success. The operators who carried out this mission returned quietly to their ships. There were no loud celebrations, just the quiet satisfaction of elite professionals who had completed one of the most important missions of the campaign. The captured weapons are now being studied, and the intelligence gained from them is already being analyzed. Early reports indicate that the missiles were of a type not previously seen in Iranian inventories, suggesting a new supply channel that will now be investigated. This joint operation between Navy SEALs, Marines, and F-35 pilots showed once again the unmatched capability of American forces when they worked together. Their successful interception of the weapons shipment has weakened the IRGC's supply lines and reduced the immediate threat to the region.